Join Jared Latigo, Camille Baransom, and Taylor Perky for episode 4 of the Cultivate Podcast with special guest Todd Colston.
That was great again. That was amazing.
It's quite a start.
Yeah, it is. He
I like
sets
that.
the tone.
I feel like I'm back playing sports.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible.
He sets the tone for how awesome we try to make people.
Hey, I'll take it.
That's the whole point of this podcast. We want to help make people awesomer.
Awesome,
So you know.
and that is a word.
It is. It's a word.
It is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, welcome to the podcast. We've got Todd Colston on today. We're going to talk about insurance. Not a topic that you're going to be like, oh yeah, let's talk about insurance. But it's something that's super important. And,
Absolutely.
And I mentioned this before. You know, for listeners and viewers, we operate out of kind of 4 buckets, right? So, physical, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, right? And so we'll talk about this a little bit more later. But I think this one is something that really impacts the emotional side of things, because anytime you're having an insurance claim, the emotions are high. They just are. So I feel like understanding where we're at from a coverage standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure that all those T's are crossed, I's are dotted kind of thing, you know, then
Absolutely.
that's going to help, you know, kind of soften the blow a little bit, right?
It does. It's really important to kind of know those things on the front end rather than learn about them when the adjuster meets with you and goes through that process.
Absolutely. So we've also got Camille on. Thank you for coming.
Thanks. Hi.
Yeah. I'm glad you're here.
Happy Monday.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it today.
You're not going to say it? No. Mm-mm.
Welcome to February.
Welcome to February. She's been saying 2020, you know, welcome to 2020.
And
Gotcha.
this is 2020.
For the last month, so.
Yeah.
So
I mean, not
she's
stop.
stopped herself. Yeah.
I'm kind of emotional
I
today.
mean, you can
Maybe
say
I
it the
won't
first
stop.
quarter, I guess. I mean,
Yeah. Okay.
first quarter.
Do I have to say it like Barbara Wawa? Let's come out and walk. No, I can't do it.
I don't think so.
Okay.
That's awesome. All right. So, Todd, tell us, you know, when you were a kid growing up, I know your dream was to become an insurance agent.
No, unfortunately, it really wasn't. It worked out that way, but no, that definitely wasn't the plan to begin with.
So tell us how you got here and why you care about insurance so much and how that impacts people.
You know, I actually wanted to coach. That was the whole dream coming out of
Coach what?
college. Basketball.
Love
Sweet. For basketball.
Yeah.
And you know, the best laid plans of mice and men don't always work out. I kind of saw the side of school administration that was difficult for me, and had an opportunity from my insurance agent at the time that suggested that maybe I'll look at the insurance side. And
So this was pretty early on.
It was.
Okay.
It was about 12 years ago now. Well, it'll be 13 this year. And it still gives me that opportunity to work with people, to help people.
Right.
And because of that, it's a love. And, you know, honestly, that opportunity to be more involved with my kids than I would have been as a teacher. You know,
The hours
teachers,
and
the
travel
hours,
and
people just don't understand the dedication involved. And obviously there's dedication from mine as well, but it's a lot more flexible.
Sure.
A lot more.
Well, you're getting to coach a little bit, aren't you?
I do when I can.
Your son's like a super.
He's a pretty decent athlete.
Yeah.
Now Dad's job is more to chew a lot of gum and sit in the stands. But yeah,
Big league chew?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's what it takes a lot to keep my big mouth closed. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
But you know, there's a 4-year-old coming up next, and I'm not sure what she's gonna do, but I'll figure out some way to get involved.
She's going to do it 180%.
Oh, she will.
Yeah.
She will.
Yes, she's definitely.
Was that on her vision board?
Her vision board had, rainbow cupcakes, ice cream, and unicorns.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
like I said, she's killing it so far.
Absolutely.
That's
Princesses, that's the only other thing we add.
Yeah, I know. I told you I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I've got 2 boys that are 10 and 6. And
Wow.
This 4-year-old daughter, and she literally runs everything.
Absolutely.
Like there's no question about it. And it's interesting. You know, my wife went outside yesterday. Her cousin was over, and he's 5, and so he was playing. They've been playing all weekend, and so she was outside, and Zoe's got him pushed up against the chair, like getting onto him for doing something, right?
Right.
And she went out there. She's like, "What are you doing?" She was like, "He was like trying to pull me out of the swing or something." I mean, something like that he tried to do to her. And so she was telling him how it was going to happen, right? And he's a little bit taller than her, a little bit bigger than her, but she totally had him up against the wall.
Absolutely.
I don't know
And
who's
it
in
was,
charge.
And so she was
Absolutely.
like, we don't really do like that. Like, that's not how we do things, you know? So we're going to deal with it. But then she came and she's like, why am I proud of her for doing that? But I wouldn't be proud of my boys. Like,
Right,
you know?
right. But
And it's
that's
like-
absolutely it. That's absolutely
But it's like,
it.
that's
Yes.
true, you know?
Yes.
It's like she knew how to take care of herself. And
Yes.
she's like, you ain't going to push me around just because I'm a girl. That's
Right.
not the way this is going to go.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Very interesting. So,
Well, I only have a girl, and she's a black belt, so I
Yeah.
can definitely attest that.
yeah.
Go girls.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, her and my wife have the girl power thing going for them. So.
Oh yeah,
Like, all
that's. I get it. I get it. Big in my house as well.
Yeah. So, okay. So obviously the audience mostly here is business owners. Obviously everyone has a personal life as well. So
Right.
you're not necessarily
Right.
in business insurance as much, but you do kind of help people with the personal side of things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, you know, for me, it's I fall back on scripture a lot with things. So I mean, take care of your house, right? Take care of that piece of your life, and then everything
Absolutely.
else falls, you know,
Absolutely.
to the in place. And I'll be honest, I don't do the greatest job of structuring my personal stuff as much as I do my business stuff.
Right.
And it's one of those things that you just kind of, it'll be okay once I fix this over here. You know, it's like, no, I really should take the actual scripture into account and say, that's the way to do it, is you take care of your household first, right? So, I mean, that to me, that's one of those things that if I'm looking at insurance, I feel like insurance is something that's extremely important to have the right things in place.
Absolutely.
So what are some things that you would tell the business owner that's maybe not got his personal stuff quite as in order? Where would they start to make sure that all that is?
I think the most important thing you could do is sit down with your agent and kind of review your entire portfolio from top to bottom, be it the car insurance, the house insurance, life insurance, whatever it may be. Go through your entire portfolio and talk with your agent to have an understanding of the importance of liability limits to protect yourself, as well as ways that I won't say you can cut corners, but make sure that you're spending your insurance dollar to the best of your ability to protect yourself. That's where I would start.
Okay.
I think liability in today's world is a very, very, very hot topic issue. You know, we see people unfortunately being in situations all the time where lawsuits are coming about, and with the adequate coverage, you've protected yourself better than if you're completely ignorant and you just don't know what you have until something happens.
Okay. Valid point. Okay.
Or until your daughter crashes your car and she's been driving for 3 weeks.
There you go.
Yeah.
Theoretically, if
Yeah, I mean,
just
that's,
in theory.
that's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's another side of it. You have to make sure that that your kids and that everybody's educated when you're in that situation, how to kind of stop and collect yourself to the best of your ability, or have that phone number to call, whether it's mom, dad, or the agent. Hey, here's what happened. What do I do? So you know how to best protect yourself from word go when something like that happens.
Yeah, well, it's super important because I know I have a daughter, she's 16. So as we're approaching this driving and graduating and all these
Right.
things, you know, we talked about taking a step back, looking at life insurance, looking at, you know, where are we and how are we best suited to be covered.
Absolutely.
Especially when you have a business, when those things intermingle, it can get messy.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
I think with my situation, personally, we really took a look back and get everything personally in order. And then, because, you know, people think you have a business or something and they think you have money, and
Right.
we can all attest that I don't have any money. But, you know, I think
Right.
it's if they're not in business for themselves, they automatically have this, you know, idea that, oh, you must have a lot of money.
Absolutely.
Right.
No, that's not true. But if you're not insured properly,
Right.
that can become a real problem.
It does. It becomes a nightmare quickly, and people just don't. You want that cheapest cost, you think, and then something occurs, and you begin to realize, well, cheaper isn't always better. I mean, there's definitely a happy medium. You don't want to overpay to a large extent, but make sure you have adequate coverage. Make sure you know what your deductibles are. Things of that nature. Cheaper's not better. That's just the best way I can put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
absolutely
we had
true.
someone on that back at the beginning of the show, and they were saying that they were talking about insurance as well, and it was saying that it was the time you want to look at your insurance coverage and kind of what they're actually going to do, what it's going to do for you is not when you're watching your house burn.
No,
right? So you
no,
need to take care
absolutely
of that ahead of
not.
time.
Not when
And
Cheryl's
then the other
she shed
thing
is
that
on
he
fire.
said that, yeah, right. The other thing that really caught my attention was the fact that he was saying that you don't want to be looking at that same situation and say, well, at least I bought the cheapest insurance. Like you want to say, at least I have the best for my situation, right?
Yeah, you want to make sure that when that unfortunate event occurs and you need the insurance, that it's going to do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and the best for that situation is different for everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, that's why I think it's so important to make sure you're sitting down with an agent or you're sitting down with someone that has a firm understanding of the way insurance works. No knock on different online companies. As long as you know what you're doing, that's fine. You just want to make sure, again, that you've protected yourself.
Right.
Well, yeah, I think you made a good point. It's really important to have that person to call
Absolutely.
at 11 o'clock at night who can
Absolutely.
say, hey, we
Yeah.
just had this wreck.
Yeah.
We need your guidance because it's scary.
It
And
is.
It's chaotic and it's emotional. And yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, and I've been there. Thankfully, when I had an accident about 4 years ago, I picked up the phone and called one of my adjusters and said, hey, I'm the guy that tells everybody what to do. Now I'm a little rattled.
Yeah.
Step me through it real quick.
Wow.
And yeah, it's just that reminder.
Wow, that is scary.
It is. It is.
So, and you do all kinds of insurance. So, and it
Absolutely.
auto, life.
Absolutely.
Well, not health.
Health is there. With the way the marketplace has changed so much over the last several years, that's a very difficult subject. But
Yeah. For
yes,
sure.
it is there.
Well, it's been a challenge of mine for years, just not, being self-employed. You don't
Right.
really have those good options.
Absolutely.
But it's so much more important. I mean, I feel like as a single parent, with a daughter that's, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of liabilities that can occur.
There are.
And so it's really important. I've appreciated knowing you and knowing that you're available to help
Right.
help us navigate through those things.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
So difference between if I'm looking at liability versus full coverage, or what my options are, like what are some of the things to pay attention to if I don't really know what I'm. Okay, let me ask you this: if I go to sit down with my agent, what are the questions that I'm saying and asking to make sure that I'm getting the right answers back for my situation?
I think trying to determine whether you want to carry liability or full coverage on a vehicle, you kind of need to know what your vehicle's worth. Not necessarily what it's worth to you emotionally, but what it truly is worth. And unfortunately, you can't look at it from the standpoint of pulling up Kelley Blue Book or NADA and I could sell the vehicle for this. No, that's really not a fair value. You kind of need to look at scaling it down a little bit, maybe more towards a wholesale value. So you have that worst case scenario in your head. Okay, this is what the vehicle is probably worth on the low end. And then you're able to kind of sit down and figure out, well, do I want to pay that additional premium to have physical damage, the comprehensive or collision coverage, or not? That's how I would go about it.
Okay.
And then with liability limits, you just kind of have to think, what do I have to protect? A young college student on their own, they don't have obviously as many assets that they've accrued to protect as someone that's been working for 20 or 30 years, getting ready to retire.
Right.
That's a whole different ballgame.
Yep. Good point.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point also what it's worth to you emotionally versus realistically.
Absolutely.
I think that's just fresh on my mind, so I hate to keep going there. But, it's when for example, when Grace started driving, it was like the choice between liability or full coverage. And I'm thinking, she's got a 2001 truck, but you know what? I still probably can't replace it. So I went ahead and went with full coverage.
And that's the next issue. That's
Yeah.
absolutely right. That there are situations where even though it may not make the best fiscal sense from the value of the vehicle, the importance of it for that situation or a single mom, that's the only mode of transportation. Yeah, obviously, you've got to have that coverage in place.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out this week.
For sure. Okay, so life insurance. My belief, from what I've read and heard, is you need to carry about 10 times your income as far as life insurance goes. So if you make a $50,000 a year income, you need to have about $500,000 on you. Is that accurate?
I think that's one way you can look at it.
Okay.
I think another way to look at it is to sit down and identify liabilities. Mortgage, college fund for kids, student loans, things of that nature, kind of get a handle of that. And then you also look at what we call readjustment income. You know, if you're no longer at the table, how long do you want to make sure your income is still there and able to be replaced?
Okay.
And the reason that I say that, so let's take my advantage or example. I have a 4-year-old. In theory, it's going to be at a minimum 17 years before she's off of a daddy daycare ticket. That's just reality.
Okay.
So not only do I need to make sure that the house is paid for if something happens to me and other things of that nature, I've got to make sure that there are still a certain amount of funds that are coming in, because she's still going to want to go to prom. She's still going to want to go and do other things. And, you know, people still have to live.
Right.
So the survivors still have to be there. So I think that just kind of going out and saying 10 times your income, that's absolutely better than nothing. No doubt. But at the end of the day, it may not be enough in certain situations.
Well, and it depends on how much debt you have and kind of the age of
Absolutely.
your children.
Absolutely.
If you have a spouse or not, or what you have left,
Yeah.
left to take care of.
Several variables.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think I look at it differently
Valid
now
point.
than I would have when Grace was little,
Right.
because I didn't think about.
I definitely
You know?
look at that completely differently after being on this side of the desk for 13 years. Again, after you see certain things and you've been exposed to on the professional side, it makes you take a step back and really kind of sit there and analyze, what does somebody really need? And instead of a McDonald's, you want to break it down and make it individual for everyone.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's a lot though. It can be overwhelming. So I think that's why it's super important to have
Absolutely.
someone that you trust to be able to have those conversations.
So
with.
let's go this direction with it. There's 8 million different types of insurance. I mean, I can get insurance on my lawnmower. Right?
Absolutely.
So what are some of the core, main ones that you really need to focus on? Obviously, home, auto, life.
I mean, I think you kind of start from those big three and work your way out.
Okay.
We all are, most of us are going to be traveling in vehicles.
Okay.
Well, then by law, we have to have insurance.
Right.
Most of us are going to have a mortgage on our house. Again, mortgage companies are going to require us to have insurance. And unfortunately, most of us are not debt free. So we've got some type of debt that we're leaving behind. We've got to make sure there's some type of life insurance in place. There are all sorts of other things, boats, jet skis, things of that nature.
Sure.
It just really depends on what toys you have, because in today's world, there's a huge marketplace. Huge.
Well, and I think when we talk about life insurance, as we've been talking about most recently, your activities and your lifestyle is something that you look at.
Absolutely.
That you don't really, I don't think you think of those things until it starts to affect your premium. And then you're like,
Right.
well, maybe I shouldn't have a desire to, deep sea dive or jump out of airplanes.
You'd be amazed.
So,
You'd be amazed.
But it's important, and I don't really think that it's kind of almost an automatic result of those conversations is really taking a hard look at what you're doing and how it affects you and your well-being and your family or children,
I think that's exactly right.
So, because, those are things I think, especially we don't think of until they happen to you.
Yeah.
So they don't happen to you if you don't do those things. So,
Right.
No, that's absolutely right.
You know.
It's absolutely right.
so your lifestyle choices and your health, it forces you to take a good look at that.
Oh, it does.
And
it
your
does.
everything. So, it can be a good thing. It can be a good rebalancing.
Oh, absolutely. Completely agree.
Yeah. So, sorry, I think that was left.
Okay. We are about, no, you're good. We're about halfway through, so we're going to go ahead and mention the sponsor of the show, as we always do, the Hub, 222 East Renfro. So what the Hub provides is shared workspace. And so it's community space. You got private offices here. We do a lot of events here. We have an event coming up Friday here, actually.
Yes.
So you can find that
I
stuff.
didn't get an invite.
Oh, it's
didn't?
an open invite, man. Whatever.
Don't
you can do it.
tell Taylor.
So
Oh,
you can find that on Facebook page. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's facebook.com/hub shared workspace or hub 222. I think it's
Hub 222, yeah.
Sorry. And then we typically overlap events with Cultivate as well. So you can find facebook.com/cultivate hub as well. So you can get some events there.
Yeah.
So we try to have things that are going to build up your business, build up you personally, build up, we have a leadership event that's coming this Friday.
We have group coaching also.
Yep.
So it's a lot.
Wow.
Yeah,
Quite a
so
bit.
we run that Thursday night, actually. So that'll be back-to-back this week. But we're kind of in the middle of a module right now. So
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, we appreciate the space here.
Yeah,
We
my pleasure.
Appreciate, being able to have the studio here and your involvement with everything that, everybody's doing here. So
Happy
it's
to
pretty
do
cool.
so. Yeah, thank you for letting us host you.
If you're in the Burleson area, you are welcome to come by and see how the hub can help get you
And we have
connected
donuts
to-
left from this
We
morning.
do have some donuts and sausage rolls. So
They won't last long because that's my lunch.
yeah, you can. Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Well, I'll be here all day, so I'll have to eat donuts if I want to eat.
There you go. So if you are around, feel free to come by. Donuts and sausage rolls at least until noon, until Camille eats the rest of them. So
Yeah, exactly.
We need to take a break. I need to get some more.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we have to
okay.
take a break. Taylor needs a donut.
That's awesome. Okay, so at the beginning we talked about the kind of 4 buckets we operate out of.
Pies.
Pies. Yes, we love pies.
He does. He must. You better. Your wife is like the best
Absolutely.
baker ever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
She had me at.
As the metabolism slows, this grows.
Oh, well, I couldn't live at your
Yes.
house. I'd
That's
be
awesome.
bigger than I am. So, yeah. Okay. So pies.
Okay, so we talked about the emotional aspect. I mean, your emotions are high. The emotions were high in your situations.
Man, absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
They
So-
tend to be when it comes to a claim.
Yeah, it's like, and I've thought about that before. Like, anytime you're in a situation like that, if you're automatically running through your head, like, do I have proper coverage? Do I have, like, is this going to get replaced? Is, what if I'm actually hurt or the other person's hurt? Like, is everybody going to, fix through this? Like, you run through all those things, like, in a matter of seconds, of, like, what's the outcome of this, right? And
Yeah.
I feel like the emotional state of the person is, like, really, kind of in jeopardy when it comes to,
Oh yeah,
not knowing
I
these
think
things.
you're very stressed at that moment. You're almost in a state of shock, and because of that, again, when the acts occurred, it's the die is cast, it's over. That's the importance of making sure that you're planning from the front end, because once the hails hit the roof or your vehicles hit another vehicle, it's done, it's over, and from there you hope that you adequately prepared.
Yeah,
Sure.
because as I'm sitting here thinking about it, would probably be important. And of course, I'm interested in teen drivers because I have one right now,
Absolutely.
and it's been a challenge. Getting them a car, getting them properly insured, and make sure that they're ready for the big bad world. But as we've experienced this situation, I'm thinking it might be really important for parents and new drivers to have kind of a what happens when this happens, because they just want to get behind the wheel.
I think so. I think you're absolutely right.
Because thank God I was 2 or 3 cars behind her, so I was there, but I may not always be there. And I think it would be really important to go over, what you need to do, how you need
absolutely.
to react, who's going to show up, the police are going to show up, the ambulance is going to show up, the fireman's going to show up. Is everyone okay? I think was our top priority, and everyone is mostly okay.
Right.
But there's a lot to be said. I think if I wasn't there, I'm not sure what she would have done.
No, and it's definitely something that I try to talk with young drivers as they begin and go through those exact steps.
And I don't think they're hearing you because they just want
They're
to. Not you personally, but I mean, as much as we've gone over it and been driving and preparing for this moment, like that was not in her wheelhouse of emotions to deal
Some of
with.
that's personality too.
Yeah.
Like it really is. I mean, it depends on how you deal with a situation in general, right? If you're somebody that is very emotional no matter what the situation is, you're obviously going to be emotional
Right.
there. If you're someone that doesn't like let their emotions just kind of run away, like at the, when something happens, then you're typically going to be more grounded in that situation. And I know that because me and my wife, like she's very emotional, very in touch with her emotions, in touch with other people's emotions, that kind of sort of thing. And I'm not. Like I'm
Right.
not. So I'm much more grounded when something happens, and I'm much more like, it's going to be okay. These are the steps we need to do to get out of this.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I even remember doing that. I've only had a couple of minor fender benders. One of them was actually a pretty decent sized wreck when I was about 17, and I had stopped. The guy behind me did not stop, and it was icy. And I turned left, and he sideswiped me, knocked me into the ditch. He ended up in the
Right.
ditch, all this stuff. It was pretty rough, but I mean, if I'd had another second, he would have T-boned me. Like it would have been really bad.
Yeah.
And I was in a little Geo Tracker. It was not a good vehicle. Like it was a piece of junk.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the point being is that while I was frazzled, I still was grounded enough to be able to say,
Right.
like, look, I know how this works. Like, I know I've got to get your insurance. I know I got to give you mine. I know, like, I didn't fly off the handle. In other words,
Yeah.
you know, but someone else, just from who they are personality wise, very well could have.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right.
Well, in different situations, I mean, she typically handles things pretty maturely, especially for her age.
She really does.
But you add in, we're sleep deprived because we've been we've had rehearsal every day for
sick.
a week. She was sick, kind of dealing with some other things, and then another performance of so it was a lot.
She had a lot on her plate.
Yeah, and I don't think those are the things you think about. So we're well prepared and we have everything kind of laid out. But then you add all that, and you can't really know when that's going to.
No, I 100%
agree. Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So especially these
and to think, I try to think of the other person too. Like, what are they going through that they're really frustrated with this situation? What are they? I mean, even if it's not a wreck, even if it's something else, like what is that person dealing with in their life that you don't have any clue about, and this is why this happened, or this is why they're all maybe this was the tip of the iceberg for them, like they were they had one thing after another for the last month, and but you don't know that backstory because you don't
absolutely
ask,
absolutely.
Yeah, and I will say we were very fortunate in that the man involved with this crash, I mean, he was very kind to Grayson, so that could have gone really another direction. So
yeah, and I actually encourage people not to have communication with the other driver, because in today's world, so many people are not as grounded, and they handle things so poorly. No need to get out of that vehicle until the police are there, and for a fact the situation's not going to escalate and get out of control.
Good example, really good example, actually.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to have a class on that or have an event.
Yeah,
because the more I'm sitting here thinking about it, and as much as we've talked about it, it's like it still can be.
Oh, absolutely. It's overwhelming.
There's common sense things you can do that don't feel like common sense at the time, because it becomes that part of the emotional.
Well, and these are all things, I know we talk a lot about business on this show, and obviously this is more for entrepreneurs and that kind of thing, but, these are all things that you don't think of as an entrepreneur or as a business owner, but the moment something like that happens, your business goes on hold.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not it definitely affects your business. It definitely affects you as an entrepreneur. So don't, I think it's important to not discount that, just because it's personal life or whatever, right? That's still who you are. And it's still probably the most important part of who you are.
I would say it's the base of the triangle, and the base is more important than the tip.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah. Okay, so the other one that I was thinking of was the physical aspect of this. I feel like insurance can very well play into the physical aspect of things. I mean, think of what would happen. Something happens to you in a wreck or an accident or whatever it is, and you can no longer perform your job, right?
Absolutely.
You can no longer do that. I mean, now you're in a physical situation that insurance is going to have to come alongside you and protect you, right? It's going to have to help you in some form or fashion. You get hurt on the job, you might have workman's comp or whatever, but that's, kind of, and then, you've got to have those things in place to be able to say, I mean, even something like, while I'm doing this, or I make most of my living from talking, right? Because I do this, I'll have conversation with people, I'll do leadership, I'll lead a business down, path through consulting, that kind of stuff. Probably 90% of my job is talking. Like, there's not a lot of, sitting behind a computer typing out stuff. That's a piece of it. So if I lost my voice for an extended period of time, I would have a serious problem.
Absolutely.
And so that's where stuff like, what type of insurance would feed into that?
Well, I mean, I think from that standpoint, now you're kind of looking at disability insurance. Okay. But again, even going back to the auto, let's say someone has what we call the minimum limits in Texas, and they're only going to be able to provide $30,000 of medical benefit to you, and it could be a horrific accident. You have a coverage on your policy called uninsured or underinsured motorist. That's an example there that you want to make sure you're protecting yourself as well. Again, nobody wants to spend more money, but you have to look at the benefit of the situation, and that's a prime example.
Right.
But yeah, disability insurance is another. We definitely have to make sure that if something happens to us and we're the made breadwinner, how are we going to replace that?
Is the disability something that goes along with something, or is that
Typically it is a standalone product.
Okay, interesting.
It really is.
So if you're any kind of breadwinner or caregiver,
absolutely,
then you need to look at that.
Absolutely.
And that's something that even I know what I have in terms of auto insurance and home insurance, that and life insurance. I'm a little underinsured on life. but I don't have disability. So
Right.
like it's something you don't think about. And I've only thought about it as we're having these conversations. You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, if you really sit down and think about things, the pragmatic person like yourself, you can really begin to piece a lot of that stuff together yourself. But we just get so busy in today's world, we don't think about all of the different portions of the puzzle.
Yeah. Well, and I think something you made a good point. We are so busy, and one of the things that I appreciate about Todd is that I'll tell him what we need to do, and he's really good about saying this, where are we at? So he keeps me, and I know that he's interested in doing and taking care of our business,
Absolutely.
And that's really important because just throughout, I try to do business with people who do business with us, and or just kind of a family thing. And I've noticed that although there's been plenty of people who could do the service, Todd's the one that follows up. Todd's the one that follows through, which is really important. Not that other people don't. I'm just saying that's been something that's been really...
and that's why you can have, multiple people that do the same thing, because everyone's personality is going to connect differently. I mean, there's people that can't sit in the same room with me, but y'all hang out with me all the time. So, I mean, it's like, there's... It's
only just, because I have to.
Well, yeah. I mean,
because you pay Taylor the big bucks.
But I'm just saying, like,
it's important to have choices.
It is. It absolutely is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and everybody's not for everybody.
It's true.
Or how do you say that?
No, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just different personalities that mesh and some others that don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about that earlier with Sean that was here. I mean, his dad was Army guy. His
mom was a
wife,
hippie.
His mom was a hippie.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's like, and I mentioned like the whole Dharma and Greg thing, like, from that show. And it was, you think of like the dynamic of that and like, how did that actually work, you know? But sometimes it does. Sometimes it's like, I'm not going to touch some of the 10-foot pole, like,
absolutely.
And so it's interesting. I don't know.
Definitely.
It's very interesting. I have a total side note here. John Long is on, and I just want to say, John Long, your podcasts are amazing, and I listen to them mostly.
Give a shout out.
I am. I'm shouting out. Okay, so I'm listening to them mostly.
What's up, John Long?
That, and again, John, I listen to your podcast mostly because I love to hear you guys laugh. So, just saying.
The Laughing Podcast. So it's called Passing the Baton.
Yeah. Oh,
Leadership
sorry.
Podcast.
Yeah, it does have real content. I do listen to the
It's
content.
very good.
It is supreme. But your laughing just makes me happy, and I feel like I look like an idiot in my car sometimes when I'm listening to you guys because you're laughing and that makes me happy, and I'm all yay and yeah. But if you know me, that doesn't surprise you.
And then people are wondering why you're laughing.
Yeah. Well, I don't think people really wonder about me anymore. They're just like,
Not if they know you.
It's her.
Yeah, if they know you.
So thank you, John Long, for being John Long, and passing the baton.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
And so he's still been doing episodes of this.
Yeah.
And he's had, I'll say this, I've seen him on Facebook and stuff. He's had a very interesting and rough month.
I wasn't going to mention that, but
he's not the only one, because the beginning of 2020 has been rough for so many people.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It has been really, really rough.
Yeah.
And so anyone that's dealt with the beginning of this year as being rough, I mean, I just encourage you to keep moving forward, because it's been tough on a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of, prayers for a lot of people that I know, because it's been like, I think it was John actually. He was like, "Can I just call a mulligan and just start?"
Yeah.
Like,
I would second that for sure. Yeah. And all of our community. So,
yeah. It's been very interesting. So.
Which brings me back to how important insurance is.
Yeah.
Make it topical.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
No, it really is. And it's those things you don't plan on, you don't think about them happening until they happen to you.
Absolutely.
And it seems like, at least with our experience, they don't just happen, one little thing. It tends to kind of, when it rains, it pours. Couldn't be more true.
I think that's exactly right, unfortunately. Yeah. I've never understood the phenomenon, but I think that's unfortunately very accurate.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. All right. Well, I think this has been really informative. I think it's been really helpful. If you could potentially, if you got it, 2-3 steps that you can leave someone with, contact your agent's the first one.
Absolutely.
Like what would you leave people with?
Be knowledgeable.
Okay.
Understand.
Be educated. Okay.
Absolutely. Understand how important liability is and how cheap it is in every policy. Protect yourself. Unfortunately, there are a lot of situations where if you're not protected, it could have a major impact, and it'll be detrimental.
Yeah, and we're going to have Todd's contact information in the comments, and he's also going to be here for an hour or so after this podcast. So if you have questions or want to come down and meet him, so he does more amazing things besides insurance, but he will be here available for you guys until about 10:30 or 11.
Do you, yeah, we'll just put your contact information in the comments. So
Perfect.
That'd be the best way to do it. So
Perfect.
All right. If you want to watch the video and you're listening to this on audio, be sure to check out facebook.com/Cultivate Hub. We do this every Monday morning at 8:30-ish, somewhere in that time frame. It's usually 8:45. So anyways, and if you are listening on Spotify, Google, Apple, any other podcast platform, be sure to share this. We would appreciate that. And leave a review. Reviews are how we help, how you can help us rank this podcast. If you enjoy it, if you think it's informative, and of course, reach out to us via Facebook or via our website, cultivate.group, and let us know what you want to hear about, and we'll try to get somebody on to talk about it. So.
Anything else you want to add?
Absolutely not. Thank you all very much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Definitely.
So, all right, with that, we are done. And Taylor, will you take us out of here?
We're out. Bye.